Welcome to Live at the Forum. We are here, day 2 of Live at the Forum, and my name is Rudy Racine. I am the Vice President of We Care Operations with Equus Workforce Solutions, and my guest this morning is Walter Simmons. He is the Executive Director of Prince George's County Workforce Development Board, as well as the President and CEO of Employ Prince George's Incorporated. Welcome, Walter.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, man. So you've been in the workforce development field for a minute. Talk to me about your journey. How'd you get here?
So I guess you could say I might have been born into this. For a little bit, my mother was a workforce board director, and for years I sat in local workforce board meetings. And as she accelerated in her career to the United States Department of Labor, I learned, and somehow I went from wanting to be in criminal justice to being in criminal justice and seeing the impacts of youth that were incarcerated through the juvenile justice system, and really realizing that they didn't have a chance. And really even after they released, you're 16, you're released, you've been in jail since you were 9. What's the likelihood of them being successful? Which showed me that I didn't want to be on the justice side. I wanted to be on the preventative side. And so my career in workforce development started in youth, out of school youth programs. But then I started understanding that some of these youth were in households that were so impoverished that they didn't have the basic supports. So then I went to the adult side and said, let's fix the parents, let's fix the household. Then I left because I didn't feel like at the time we were operating 2 one-stops, worked for the nonprofit and worked in the financial stability industry on how do we really create true one-stops that really address all of the socioeconomic barriers that impact low-income communities and households across America. And I wound up understanding and learning the nonprofit sector, came back to DC, working with DC Department of Employment Services. And that led me to where I am today of really being able to blend the two of a nonprofit, government, working on the holistic approach to workforce development in Prince George's County, Maryland, and have been happy to serve as the workforce board director for 5 years. And we founded Employ Prince George's in 2018 and just celebrated 3 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's an awesome story, man. And I met your mom last night.
Yep.
And she told me that you've been in the game since you were 6. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think if you had to talk about NOB before it was NOB, I might have the most amount of annual conferences under my belt. If it was, from hanging out in hotels, hanging out in this hotel for years. But it has been great, not trying to go into workforce development. When I got into workforce development in my 20s, I picked it up. And one of the big things that I talk about, what is the benefit of NOB? As a professional, it's a community of practice. It's being able to connect with people who have been doing my job for 20 years. So growing up in this industry, it basically gave me a competitive advantage because I was able to understand the benefits of an organization such as NOB and how to leverage it as a young professional. And I think that's what led me to, I became a workforce board director at 27, 28 maybe. And it's almost 100% attributed to the NOB and as a community of practice to be able to identify resources and those who had subject matter expertise and implement them in the local areas, even when I was working at the front desk of a job center.
Awesome. So I want you to tell me, Walter, a little bit more about Prince George's County, right? So who are your constituents? Like, who are the people that you're working with, and how are you connecting with them?
So a general principle that I've carried throughout my career is that nonprofits, workforce boards, governments need to operate like a business. Mm-hmm. So in the business, we created a business model, identified stakeholders. So we say in Prince George's County that the business is our customer, the product is our job seeker, and our providers are manufacturers. They produce a raw product, which is a job seeker who isn't ready to be in front of an employer, or they can produce a finished product, which is a job seeker that is ready to go in front of an employer. So thinking of that process and our model, and then we're that bridge between job seekers and businesses, we are the county that surrounds DC on 3 sides. We're a majority minority county, the wealthiest African-American or minority county in the United States. But we also have other issues that everybody has. We're number 2 or number 3 in returning citizens. We are one of the most affordable regions in Maryland, in the DC metropolitan region, which means We have a lot of immigrants and people that move and they want to live here because they believe they can get their piece of American pie. So an extremely diverse population of people. We're home to National Harbor. We're home to 28,000 businesses. MGM, the University of Maryland. We have 2U, some of the most growing businesses. So we have a diverse population. We have a diverse group of businesses. We have the above average amount of people with graduate degrees, but also the largest amount of adults without a high school diploma. Wow. So when we talk about workforce development, our goal is to be that bridge between job seekers and businesses. And at the end of the day, our job is to ensure that everybody in Prince George's County can get their piece of the American pie.
Awesome. So you talked about job seekers, businesses, and providers. Let's start with businesses, right? So you said businesses are your customer. Your customer, right? So how are you connecting with your customers right now, especially in this COVID environment?
Wow. Connecting in a COVID environment means you have to pull every trick of the trade out, right? So one of the big things we did is we went virtual. In a business, one thing that if you know me, I tell people a saying, you need to know what you don't know. When you don't know, you need to know it. So what does that mean? We always had an issue with a 500 square mile county, almost 1 million people, 28,000 businesses, accessibility. So we started working on virtual tools before the pandemic. What the pandemic did is while we were working on those virtual tools and it was a secondary priority, it became the number one priority when Prince George's County closed on March 16th to the public. So we've been engaging with businesses virtually since the pandemic. I'm happy to say that with our program year ending on June 30th, 2020, last year we actually had our largest amount of businesses engaged. 1,400 businesses engaged by our team alone, just the Employed Prince George's team, almost 1,700 to 2,000 businesses engaged totally, utilizing our virtual tools. So we will continue, now that we're reopening, continue to use those virtual tools. We're also leveraging social media, right? People say only young people on social media, 90% Gen Z, millennials. Do you know that 48% of baby boomers are on social media?
They're all on Facebook.
Exactly, they are. They're not on TikTok. But so we're utilizing that Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're streaming. We're now geofencing our area and engaging with businesses. And lastly, one of the new tools, right, that we're utilizing is using a pay for performance and a contracting method to engage our business engaging entities, chambers of commerce, business associations, trade associations, labor groups. We've actually began working with those associations who are also businesses, whose memberships may have declined, their capacity has struggled. We are actually providing contracts to those entities, so we're supporting small businesses as they engage small businesses. And we believe that next year, that we're going to touch around 3,000 businesses. We're trying to double. As we reopen our economy, we're going to double the amount of businesses that even though we had our best year last year, our next year is going to be our better year. And the year after that, until every year is our best year. So we're going to try to do a hybrid model of engaging businesses through small businesses and associations, utilizing our virtual career centers and tools, and also utilizing social media, geofencing, streaming. We're going to use every tool that we can find in the bag to engage with our businesses to ensure that they can reopen, rehire, and move our community forward.
That's wonderful, man. So it sounds like you're going to hold on to the hybrid model even as businesses start to reopen and the city starts to reopen. Is there anything that you anticipate is going to change as COVID restrictions lighten up?
So there is no, when people have been saying, when COVID's over.
It's not going.
There is no COVID. It's more like pre-COVID. It's more like pre-COVID era. And now we're in the COVID era because it's not going away. So we're definitely going to create hybrid. When you learn a new technology or a new technique, you don't just stop using it. You hone it, you improve it, you grow it, right? You take that new technology or that new tool and you make it your expertise. So we're going to keep a hybrid model. We're opening the first American job center inside of a Tanger Outlets next month, right? And you know what we built into that new model in this new COVID era? We have smart boards and we have virtual streaming that we can have people sitting in our career readiness or in our Wagner Pizer orientation or a Jobs for Veterans State Grant or a WHEEL Title I orientation. And then people can be sitting at home on their laptop and log into that live session. We have smart boards in each training room now so that when they type a question, it pops up on the smart board and that facilitator can answer that question for you, Rudy, at home in the same workshop, right? So we're going to keep this hybrid model and we're going to grow. We're going to stream workshops. We're going to stream trainings. We've partnered with a virtual job fair tool. So now we're offering, you want to do an in-person job fair? Come to the job center. You want to do a virtual job fair? We can handle that. We are going to purchase a mobile unit. It arrives in January of 2021. You want to have a job fair on site? We will park the job center in front of your building. I'll roll it up to the door if I can, right? So we're going to keep all these tools and techniques. And again, we're going to grow. And we encourage every workforce development board, every workforce service provider, don't try to go back to the norm. Elevate, adapt, grow, innovate to meet the needs of your local economy, of your community.
That's awesome. So, I mean, that's your customer, right? So let's talk about the product, your job seekers. Talk to me about, how you're connecting with your job seekers right now, and what are some of the challenges with getting them back to participate and engage?
Great question. So let's address that. People say, oh, Walter, your customer is also your job seeker. Well, just because I'm identifying them as a product doesn't mean that important. I want to produce the best product in the country. Nobody produces a car that won't sell. Amazon doesn't sell bananas that are brown. They want to sell a yellow banana, right? So we care about our product. We want to produce the best and most skilled, qualified workforce in the country, right? So what does that mean? How do we engage? We're engaging them differently. We are redesigning our workforce programs to include new supportive services. We might have to give somebody a Wi-Fi hotspot. We might have to give someone a Chromebook, a loaner, right? We have to do new engagement strategies. We have changed our workforce system into the first free membership network in the country. So we don't say, welcome to the Prince George's County Public Workforce System. Doesn't that sound so boring, right? You ever say, do you want to come visit the Prince George's County Public Workforce System?
When you say it like that, not really.
No, right? You can come visit the Prince George's County Community Network. You can be a member. I don't want you to just be a member of my job center. Be a member of our community network. Join us as we serve our community. You now have ownership as a member, right? So we created a tiered membership model, and we went from 52% occupancy in our Comprehensive American Job Center to 114% occupancy. So now each one of those members, over 55 partners in our public workforce system in Prince George's County through a membership network, from a lady who is managing the information board on her church to the HOA president, even to the mayor of Greenbelt is a member of the Prince George's County Public Workforce System because he is a member in our community network. On to the traditional government partners, mandated partners of social services, vocational rehabilitation. So from mayors to mandated core partners, everybody's a member. We're using each member to engage people. We have over 20 libraries. Every library is a satellite access point in Prince George's County. Over the last 5 years, before COVID, even when we had a higher unemployment, in December of 2019, we had a 3.2% unemployment rate, right? In years prior, we had a 5% unemployment rate. But do you know, in years when we had 3.2% unemployment rates, we engaged 30% more job seekers and a lower unemployment rate? It's because we started engaging our job seekers through our community partners, and we realized that they had a deeper touch in whatever community they served. So we are engaging people through our network members. We have a virtual career center that we've launched that we're moving. We're actually having hybrid models. We're engaging people through Teams and Zoom. We're doing a podcast. We had the Daily Finance in London ranked the Employ Prince George's podcast as one of the top 20 podcasts, economic podcasts for 2021. Do you know I have businesses who heard the podcast who say, hey, how can I access some of your job services? We've had job seekers engage us on our podcast. We're now doing something on social media. We have live sessions where someone actually in the middle of live session makes a comment, I'm looking for a job with this employer. We immediately follow up with them on social media and invite them to a virtual session.
Love it.
And so these are the different tools that we're engaging job seekers, and at the end of the day, connecting those job seekers to businesses efficiently and effectively.
Oh man, you gave me a lot, and I want to come back to the podcast because I was actually listening to an episode this morning. So we're going to touch on the podcast, but you also mentioned Chromebooks and Wi-Fi, right? So I think with the pandemic, the digital divide or the absence of connecting to technology with some of our communities, it was a spotlight put on it because we had to work virtually. People had to go home, and there were a lot of people that didn't have computers, didn't have Wi-Fi. So talk to me about how the Prince George's County Workforce Development Board and or Employ Prince George's Incorporated is working to get those Chromebooks and that Wi-Fi in the hands of the people that need it the most.
We're stronger as a group. We're stronger as a team. We're stronger as a network. So how are we doing it? Prince George's County Memorial Library System is piloting our Chromebook assistance and lending program for the country. Areas in New Jersey are doing this as well. We don't need to duplicate. We don't need to compete. We're partnering with our library system. So we're also partnering with Comcast. We've also partnered with our public school system as we're identifying households who are receiving Wi-Fi and hotspots. For youth, what about the adults in the household? How many adults in the household need internet? So we're doing a partnership to make sure the parents of the youth are having the same access as their children because they need to apply for jobs as their children are doing their homework on their laptops and internet. We're partnering with the Memorial Library System. There's libraries in every region, every local area in this country, and we have over 20. We're partnering with them. When somebody comes in jobs and they're looking for a job or they're looking for a training program and they get a Chromebook, the Job Center is actually trained. Every library has staff trained on how to register people into Maryland State Labor Exchange. And so they're connected. We're also doing something new. We're putting community hubs. We're putting these kiosks, these virtual kiosks into different community centers across the county so that someone can identify a kiosk in their nearest community, maybe that's in walking distance, that has the State Labor Exchange and our website, our partners' websites already pre-uploaded on that kiosk, and they can go in and do a job search. So and also we partner with Comcast to make our job centers Wi-Fi hubs where people can come sit in the parking lot and do whatever they need. So we're loaning hotspots and Chromebooks to our partners. We're partnering with our partners that are giving out hotspots for a direct objective. We're finding the indirect objective. Is there anyone else in that hotspot? Our job centers are becoming Wi-Fi hubs. So we're doing a little bit of everything through our partners, and that's why partnership is key. That's why partnership is probably one of the words that's mentioned the most in the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, and we're going to maximize that word and build our network, and we're doing almost all of the above in some form or fashion related to bridging that digital divide and building that infrastructure, as well as training people to build the broadband infrastructure that have been laid off due to the pandemic. So Rudy, we're attacking it on all sides.
Love it. You shining, Walter. You shining, man. Doing the most right now. I love it. All right. So you talked about the podcast, right? I checked out an episode. I just found out about it recently, so I'm gonna have to check out some more. But one of tell us a little bit more about the podcast, and I want to touch on a series that you're doing on the podcast that really stuck out to me.
So the podcast, we were trying to figure out how to identify businesses and stakeholders that we weren't traditionally engaging with. Podcast is one of the most growing sectors of ways that people receive information in the country. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to figure out how to engage. So we created the Workforce Wire podcast to give monthly updates to job seekers, businesses, community members, and elected officials about the workforce development happenings in Prince George's County. We went from 0 listeners to an average of over 300 streams and listeners per month. And so we touch all subjects that address target populations, youth, veterans, returning citizens. We address eligibility. How can you be eligible for a program? We interview partners. We also do career pathway segments where people can understand how to be a local elected official, how young people can get into engineering, right? And then we also post them on YouTube so people can see change you can see is change you can believe in. So we provide the resources and links that we discuss on our website. People can hear it, they can listen to it. We have people as far as California that have tapped into the podcast and put it in their classrooms. Our training providers are using some of the podcasts. Our partners are using the podcast. So this is just a new tool that we utilize to connect, engage, educate, and move our workforce system forward.
I love it, man. And I see the theme. I see, the one that stood out to me was the Walking in My Shoes series.
Yes.
Those episodes are definitely something to check out. So very quickly, because I'm getting to wrap it up.
There you go. Right.
Can you just tell the audience a little bit about the Walk in My Shoes series and what they should check out if they were a first time listener?
Everybody's talking about returning citizens, but we're not talking to returning citizens. the Walking in My Shoe series was based on people that want to do workforce development and serve returning citizens. I wanted them to hear from returning citizens that have become elected officials, recently returning citizens, women returning citizens, youth, and then also wrongfully incarcerated. So we basically, it's a way for the workforce development professional to really understand what it takes and what it is walking in a journey of someone who's been incarcerated, so they can understand and create the programs. And it's also used, having so many returning citizens across this country, change you can see is change you can believe it, to see a person who is in their same shoes that has defied the obstacles and actually become the chair of our county council and become a national business leader, right? So it's twofold. We wanted people to see and understand what a journey of a returning citizen is. And then we also, other returning citizens, to know that regardless of what has happened in your life, right, your history doesn't predict your future, and that there are people that have done what you've done and achieved those obstacles to empower those returning citizens.
I love it, man. So listen, in workforce development, oftentimes we're looked at as the voice of the voiceless, right? So we work and we advocate for people that don't have that platform and don't have that voice to kind of speak for themselves in some cases. And I think what you're doing is you are truly an innovator, and you are absolutely the voice of the voiceless, and you're doing great things in your community, Walter. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And we appreciate you, man. Keep doing the work.
Hey, Rudy, thank you. Thank you, Equus. Thank you, Nob, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.